and welcome to Beach Hour. Now as you can see behind me today, we have the GLC 300D with us today, which is of course the coupe variant. Instead of doing a regular review, what we are planning to do is instead we're going to take it out on a 160 kilometer one-way trip. So that's about 300 kilometers round trip around our city of Pune. But I think it's going to be interesting because it's going to make us explore a completely different area. We are going to explore a completely new side of our locality. And what it also is going to do is sort of give us an idea about how the GLC is on roads like this. The GLC Coupe body shell was there before as well with the AMG format or the AMG lineup. They had the 43 AMG. I'm not sure if that is here right now because I think they've discontinued it. Next year they might be recontinuing it. And now what Mercedes has done is they've brought the GLC Coupe in both petrol as well as diesel variants. These cars go alongside with the normal GLC SUV. At the same time, at the back, you can notice that it's got that coupe design. And I think it's a good looking car overall. I don't know if a lot of people will agree to me when I say this because there are lots of these old school people, and I think a lot of people in general who are out there who just generally don't like the whole SUV, coupe, hybridization, mixing of these two design forms. But at the same time, there are a few people who love the coupe shape, like the guys who fell in love with the earlier X6, when that came out. So I mean, I was one of them. I appreciate old school car designs as well, but I sort of also did, kind of like the X6 and the, the coupe SUVs that sort of started coming after that. Come on, think of it in countries like India, where you need practicality, where you need that utility, that your vehicle should be able to, give you that versatility because the roads are quite bad in most of the places. So this sort of becomes like a perfect match where you are wanting to have a sedan, so you get kind of a sedan coupe body shape, but at the same time below it you're getting a car which has got a much more higher ground clearance. So the major two changes that you will notice on the outside of the GLC Coupe are one, the new grille, and second of all is the new headlights. The headlights are now multi-beam LEDs, which mean that they will automatically adjust so that they don't blind the person who is in front, who's, any oncoming traffic will not get blinded. And we people always keep thinking that millionaires and rich people don't care about poor people. That's not actually the case. All good? Thank you. Alright guys, going forward, let me just tell you the plan what we have for today. So we are going from Pune to Maharashtra, which is about 75-80 kilometers, give or take a little bit here and there. That is from the highway. But since we have a raised car with us, we have the GLC Coupe, we thought instead what we would do is we would go from the interior roads, you could call them the B roads, or we'll go through the rural roads. Pretty sure we're going to go across some really brilliant scenery, meet some really lovely people, and I'm not sure because this is not the right time, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but otherwise you also have some lovely food on these roads as well. If I would overall consider the GLC, I think the suspensions are tuned more for this kind of driving or these kind of roads where you need more damping, you need to be more cushiony and comfortable inside. So the suspensions accordingly are slightly on the softer side. And that helps when you're on roads which are this bad. And these kind of broken down roads are actually the worst kinds, because if you have no roads, then it's okay because the mud and the ruts, they are comparatively gradual, they don't cause the suspensions to completely lose themselves, and completely crash out. So in that ways, like these kind of roads actually test your suspension's capability more and more. And I'm really happy to say that till now, the suspensions are holding up pretty well. So this road also has two forts, one is Raigad and one is Torna, obviously because we have a different destination to reach to. At the end of the day we are not going, but I can see see that Raigad, that's Raigad fort. Chill kid, be careful. Tight roads. Although one thing I've noticed, like even if you're in the city or if you're out here in the wild, people appreciate the way this car looks quite a lot. I think in general Indians would like the idea of a coupe on top of an SUV because practically seeing, we guys can't really use, you know, like sedans over here. We can't use cars that are low because they really can't. They're very, very limited, you know. I mean, I think outside the city, if you start going on explorations like this, if you start heading out into slightly more remote areas, you'll have a tough time, say, if you have a C-Class. But this, on the other hand, the GLC and the GLC Coupe, these cars will have no problem wherever you want to go. Like, for example, ahead, if you see, the roads are horribly broken. I don't even know what kind of pothole is there or what kind of depth there is. But there you go, no problems. This car is perfect for these kind of places. To a major extent, I am not so much worried about anything that the car is doing. It will probably be able to manage itself throughout this road. I don't need to really worry about anything scraping anywhere or having any problems. So that was an incredible detour which we just took. Instead of coming directly from the highway, we went behind the mountains and we ended up at the first lake, which was Khadakwasla, then the second lake, which was Bhor. Both of them beautiful. Khadakwasla is still alright. Khadakwasla is your more commercialized kind of a place, but Bhor is more a little, you know, it's a little distant for people to come. It's a little desolate, plus the roads are not good. So Bhor is the place where you actually want to come on a weekend, especially early in the morning if you can, because then you have the entire valley, the entire lake and every place around it for yourself. On the B roads and on the state highway roads where the tarmac quality is not of the best condition, the GLC's setup for the suspension is actually better tuned for that kind of a situation, because it literally eats through most of the bumps, most of the bad roads, and lets very less through inside into the cabin. What I'm afraid of though is that it's good at these roads, it's good at these everyday roads and, you know, B roads and state highway roads, but when the roads get faster, when the corners get a little faster, I am not very confident about how this thing is going to handle the turns. Let's find out though. We are heading towards the Ghat section. Alright, so now the roads have become slightly better. We are on a much faster section of tarmac where the roads don't have potholes in them. We can now put the car on Sport Plus. What Sport Plus does is it sharpens your throttle response, it stiffens up the steering wheel. Slowly, when you start picking up the pace, the first thing that you realize with this car is that there's a lot of weight. There's a lot of weight being thrown around from one side to the other, and the suspensions kind of, you know, have a little bit of a tough time, you know, getting all that weight in check, getting it all in place. But overall, still not bad. I mean, the kind of car this is, the kind of setup this is, I mean, come on, this is as high as an SUV. It's almost 5.7 inches off the ground, and for that kind of a setup, I think this car is still doing a pretty good job. I'm impressed. Judging by how the car was behaving on medium speed corners, I was not expecting the GLC Coupe to be actually this responsive or this stable when going into corners at higher speeds. But not bad. I mean, definitely, don't get me wrong, this is nothing sporty about this car. This is, I mean, it's, yeah, there's a lot of body roll, but it somehow, you know, it tries to keep itself in check, but definitely not a car where you would like to push it too hard, because you might get understeer soon after you push it. There it is, that's the understeer. Also, when you put the car on Sport Plus, the steering weighs up a little bit, not by much. It's still tuned more, you know, to keep things comfortable, to keep it easy steering for you. So this is actually the 330D, which means that this is the 245 bhp OM654 engine, the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, and it's surprisingly good. I mean, the weight shifts up and the weight picks up speed is good, but you should not be overzealous with this engine, because the minute you put your foot on the brake, you realize that this is not a C-Class and instead it's a GLC, and all that weight that's hidden behind you comes right back when you start to brake, and you realize, oops, you need more braking room. And so what I've got from driving this car fast is that it's an enjoyable car. I mean, even with that diesel engine, it's decently punchy. It punches you through corners quite, not furiously I would say, but with quite decent amount of fun. It is entertaining. Although, I mean, in the end you have to realize this is the GLC Coupe. It's higher off the ground and it is eventually not set up for, you know, ultimately sporty handling. But at the same time, for what it's set up, which is being some sort of an all-rounder, which, you know, performs well during your daily office runs, and at the same time performs really good when you're taking the family or your friends out on the weekend to places where your normal sedan cannot reach out to. And I think in that way, the way the suspension, the steering wheel and the overall power of the vehicle along with its handling is, you know, kind of set up, it sort of does make sense to, you know, sort of offer you the best of both worlds kind of an experience. And I think that's what this car is going for any which ways, because if you want outright performance and you still want a GLC Coupe, then you got to go for the GLC 43 AMG. Good morning. We are now on our way back to Pune, and I thought this would be a good time to probably tell you a little bit about the interiors of this car. So for 2020, the new GLC as well as the new GLC Coupe both have got the upgraded interiors, where you will now find the new MBUX. The biggest change you will see when you sit here is that everything is now digital. The entire cockpit is a digital cockpit, gone are the old school dials. The center now has a touch screen, so Mercedes basically is now giving you 3 separate options how you want to interface with the car, where you have buttons and you have a touch pad on the steering wheel as well. There is an entire touch screen which you can interface with also, and over here you have the touch dial or the touch pad over here in the center console as well. And by far I think the most less useful one is this over here, this touchpad. Apart from that, this and this is great. The steering wheel controls are awesome, especially when you're driving, because this gets a little bit distracting sometimes. Otherwise, in terms of interactivity, I think it's a huge upgrade. In here, everything feels luxurious, everything feels up to a certain standard, you know, in terms of the fit and finish, the build quality, how, you know, everything is put together. It feels very nice, very solid. At the same time, it feels comfortable, cushiony because of the use of leather. I think it's faux leather nowadays. So you have that, plus you have good imitation aluminium, I would say. This is not actual aluminium, this is imitation aluminium. But the only couple of places where I found the quality, you know, I would say not as expected is these indicator stalks, which they do feel a little bit plasticky, and this trimming on the center console. Now the biggest difference over here from the regular SUV is of course the coupe design, and with the coupe design comes some positives and some negatives. Positives obviously that it looks beautiful, and negatives being, you know, slight compromise with the boot space as it is in this car, and usually there is also a slight compromise in the headroom in the back as well. But in this car somehow, I mean, it didn't feel that to me. I am 5'8", but when my friend sat who's a 6'1", he said that he's sitting comfortably in the car, but he was worried if he goes over bad patches of road, he might hit his head on the ceiling. This being a coupe, there are a couple of problems. One, there is a slight reduction in the amount of boot space you have. I will put the number of liters difference between the normal GLC and this down below. Although there's not such a big difference that, you know, you'll be probably have to, you know, drop out one person or his entire luggage when going on a trip. Don't worry, it's not that bad. Now we're back on the highway and we're heading back home. To summarize the entire trip, it definitely was adventurous, it definitely was fun. We were tired at the end of the day, and that is despite being in this car. And we were decently tired at the end of the day, because you can imagine 6-7 hours of back-to-back off-roading through roads like those where you have to really be careful. There are rocks everywhere. It does stress you out, and you know, the car did take care of most of the stresses, because of its good ground clearance. I didn't have to worry too much about what's coming underneath it. Because of the parking sensors, the parking sensors are absolutely incredible, and they're so useful when you're in such tight places. So because of the parking sensors, we didn't have to worry about things around us. We were very clear about all the clearances, distances around us. Although they do get a little annoying sometimes when they, just randomly light up when there's a small shrub nearby, when there are bushes nearby. But that's fine. You can take that one sort of annoyance against 10 better positive. So I think overall the GLC Coupe sits somewhere in the middle, where it's for the person who wants a sedan, who likes sedans, but can't face the idea of having a full-time SUV because he doesn't see the utility of it. So this sort of brings both of those things together, where you got the utility of an SUV, you've got the clearances, you've got all the major benefits of having a taller car, alongside having something which looks like a coupe, which looks like a design which is a little bit more desirable than what an SUV design is. I hope you like this video, and I look forward to seeing you back for the next one. But till then, ciao.